Unit 5, Changing the World.
Essential question.
How can each of us make a positive change?
Background. Mohandas Gandhi, 1869 to 1948, understood the importance of patience and determination when facing adversity. While living in South Africa and India, he led campaigns to protest unjust laws, using peaceful resistance rather than violence. Despite setbacks and disappointment, Gandhi's movement eventually achieved remarkable goals, such as winning India's independence from Britain. Gandhi's principles of nonviolent political action, which influenced Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela, can be summed up in the Indian leader's own words. In a gentle way, you can shake the world. Close reading focus. As you read this biography, consider the connection between Gandhi's actions and the goals he hoped to achieve.
How Gandhi Changed the World by Heather Whips.
He wasn't the first, nor would he be the last. But the wiry, bespectacled man from Gujarat is certainly the most famous of the world's peaceful political dissidents. Mohandas Gandhi, also affectionately known as Mahatma, led India's independence movement in the 1930s and 40s by speaking softly without carrying much of a big stick, facing down the British colonialists with stirring speeches and nonviolent protest. For his troubles, he's often named among the 20th century's most important figures and remains revered in India as a father of the nation. More than anything else, historians say, Gandhi proved that one man has the power to take on an empire, using both ethics and intelligence. Other peaceful resistors, such as Martin Luther King Jr. during the 1960s civil rights movement and Tibet's Dalai Lama, have emulated his methods in years since, shaking up the dynamic world of politics in the process.
Urges Britain to quit India.
It is hard to imagine the thin-robed Gandhi working in the rough and tumble world of law. But Gandhi did get his start in politics as a lawyer in South Africa, where he supported the local Indian community's struggle for civil rights. Returning to India in 1915, he carried over his desire to improve the station of the lower classes. Gandhi quickly became a leader within the Indian National Congress, a growing political party supporting independence, and traveled widely with the party to learn about the local struggles of various Indian communities. It was during those travels that his legend grew among the Indian people, historians say. Finding extreme poverty and famine in his own Gujarat province, Gandhi led an initiative to clean up the area, install new schools, and build hospitals. He was ultimately arrested by British-appointed landlords for causing unrest, but talked his way out of jail and negotiated better conditions for the Indian farmers. When news about this sneaky feat spread through India, he earned the nickname Bapu, or father. Indeed, Gandhi was known as much for his wit and intelligence as for his piety. When he was arrested several more times over the years for his actions during the movement, Gandhi calmly fasted in prison, believing that his death would embarrass the British enough to spur independence. which had become the focus of his politics by 1920. Gandhi's non-cooperation movement, kicked off in the early 1920s, called for Indians to boycott British goods and traditions and become self-reliant. His most famous protest came in 1930, when Gandhi led thousands of Indians on a 250-mile march to a coastal town to produce salt, on which the British had a monopoly. The Salt March of April through May 1930 became one of Gandhi's most famous protests. He led thousands of Indians on foot to the Arabian Sea from Ahmedabad as a nonviolent protest of British rule in India. The Indian people were not allowed to produce or sell salt. They were instead required to buy expensive and heavily taxed salt. When Gandhi and his followers arrived at the seashore, they collected lumps of sea salt left on the beach after high tide. By collecting their own salt, the protesters were producing salt and breaking the law. More than 60,000 people, including Gandhi, were arrested for these actions. The Salt March, also known as the Salt Satyagraha, was an important part of the Indian independence movement. It triggered the wider civil disobedience movement that eventually led to Indian independence. It became a model for other movements, including the U.S. civil rights movement that occurred decades later. India finally gained full independence in 1947 when Gandhi was 78. Although some historians argue that independence was inevitable with Britain's economic collapse after World War II, most agree that it would not have happened without the foundation of dissent he built among several 100 million Indians throughout the 1920s and 30s. Ironically, the ultimate proponent of nonviolence was killed by assassination in 1948 while walking to his evening prayer meeting. Today, Indians, anti-war protesters, and authors, for the many interesting quotes he provided, celebrate Gandhi as a preeminent figure. Not 20 years after his death, Gandhi also had a direct impact on the history of the United States. Martin Luther King Jr. is said to have been heavily influenced by Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence, believing it to be the only logical approach to the problem of race relations in America.
Discuss. This article discusses Gandhi's leadership of peaceful resistance movements. Why was Gandhi's approach successful in bringing about positive change? Discuss your answers with a small group of classmates.